that if we're all honest with ourselves, like when we sit down with a financial advisor, broker, whoever it is, when we sit down with someone, a doctor, and we're looking for advice, I think that we all deep down expect that that person cares, right? And even if they don't, we like to believe that. And I think that it's terribly unfortunate that the way that our financial services industry is structured right now, there's two entities that control regulation. And so the SEC controls investment advisors, and investment advisors have their own set of guidelines, own set of rules. And brokers are for some reason managed over at FINRA, and FINRA is a lot like the SEC. They have a different set of rules, and that manages brokers. I think that it's very important that people understand that there are two different set of rules, because I think when you walk on a car lot and you go to buy a car, I think that you understand that they want to sell you a car, right? Because we understand how they're compensated, we understand how the business side of it works. It's not too bad. But I think when we get into the financial services industry and we look at the large name that everybody's heard of because there's a lot of extra money to market, we also kind of have a feel for what we're going to get into, right? Like for some reason there's the familiarity, and that provides a sense of comfort. And I just think people should know what the rules are and then the key differences. I mean, I've got an example I always use in my presentations where I'll pick somebody out of the audience and I'll say, congratulations, this is Billy, and he's got $1 million. And so let's say that Billy has 90% of his money safe. CDs earning 5%, he bought them back in 2008, he's locked down. So he's good to go with 90% of his money. So if he came into my office and I was a broker and he sat down and he said, hey Travis, I got 10% of this money, I want it to go into the stock market. Now, if I'm a broker, I work for a broker-dealer. That broker-dealer controls his company, he controls his image, he controls his menu. And that's pretty important, right? Because at the top of that broker-dealer channel, there's a guy, and that guy has to build a business, and that business has to look the same everywhere. So when Billy sits down with us and says, I have 10% of my money that I'd like to invest in the stock market, he naturally pulls out his menu and starts looking through what would be suitable. Brokers are subject to the suitability standard, and that suitability standard says that it needs to be appropriate for their situation. So it's absolutely appropriate, let's get this out of the way, it's absolutely appropriate to invest 10% of your money in the market if you have 90% of your money safe. And if that's true, well, now everything on the menu is available, right? And so let's just say we're looking at a mutual fund. So we're flipping through our Rolodex of investments as if there was such a thing, right? And we find one and look at that, fantastic track record, never lost money, little bitty commission. Let's toss that one, let's keep looking. We find another one and it maybe doesn't have quite as good a track record, but it's got a big old commission. And so the brokers and their set of guidelines, it's suitable. And so they can have their choice of which one they want to pick for you. And to me, I'm not suggesting that a broker would ever make the wrong choice. What I'm suggesting is that the way that the rules are currently structured, there's a lot of temptation there, right? God forbid I got a speeding ticket on the way to work, right? And I'm out $300 or whatever the case may be, and Billy just happened to sit down. I guess in our practice we want to expose all that so that when that time comes and you do sit down with whoever it is, it doesn't have to be our group, but if you sit down with them, I think that you should know if there is a commission involved. You should know if there's not. And flip the coin, say I was an advisor and I'm looking at the exact same two investments, all things being equal. If I can't receive commission because I have a fiduciary standard to you, which is a legal obligation to do what's right by the client, well, all things being equal, big commission, small commission, which one's better for the client? So because my guidelines say that I have to make the choice that's right for the client, I don't have a choice. I have to choose the one that has the better record with the smaller commission. I don't get it anyway, so there's not like there's anything tearing at me from a financial perspective. It's just things like that. I believe they're not difficult to understand. It's just when I sit down, am I dealing with a broker? Am I dealing with an advisor? And how do they do business? If all of it's out on the table, that's mission complete. If the client wants to stay where they're at, fantastic. If the client wants to move, fantastic. Just I want them to know that they're making decisions from a place of empowerment.